Welcome back to the PlayAbly podcast. If you've tried a spinner or loyalty points before, only to have it not work as well as you hoped, today's podcast is for you.
Gamification was supposed to revolutionize digital engagement, but the first wave around 2012 actually backfired in a pretty big way. There was a massive meta-analysis of 128 academic studies that found many early gamification tactics didn't increase motivation at all. They reduced it. Instead of making people more engaged, those points, badges, and leaderboards often made experiences feel transactional and shallow, which really goes against what we now know about how people make decisions.
That feels so counterintuitive, especially considering how hyped gamification was back then. Why did something that sounded so engaging end up having the opposite effect?
It mostly comes down to incentive design. A lot of early gamification relied on extrinsic rewards and things like points, discounts, or virtual badges without considering intrinsic motivation. Decades of psychology research, especially self-determination theory, shows people are motivated by autonomy, competence, and meaning. When rewards feel controlling or disconnected from a real goal, they actually reduce interest instead of increasing it.
So those early mechanics weren't neutral. They were actively working against how people naturally engage.
Exactly. And consumers felt it too. By the mid-2000s, surveys showed that over 40% of shoppers ranked spin-to-win pop-ups and forced email gates among the most frustrating brand experiences online. They felt interruptive, irrelevant, and manipulative, especially when the incentive had nothing to do with what the shopper was actually trying to accomplish.
I think everyone listening has experienced that moment. You're browsing a product, and suddenly a pop up says, enter your email to win an iPad. There's no connection at all.
Totally. And that disconnect is what broke trust. Gamification became decoration instead of decision support. But what's interesting is that gamification didn't disappear. It evolved. Over the last few years, we've seen brands use interactive experiences extremely effectively, just in very different ways.
So, what changed between that first wave and what we're seeing work today?
Three major shifts reshaped everything. First, the data landscape changed. With third-party cookies going away and privacy regulations tightening, brands had to rely more on first-party and zero-party data. According to Salesforce and McKinsey, customers are willing to share data, but only when the value exchange is clear, and interactive experiences turned out to be one of the best ways to do that.
That makes sense, especially for e-commerce brands trying to personalize without being creepy.
Exactly. The second shift is attention. Multiple industry reports show interactive content holds attention roughly twice as long as static content, and the Content Marketing Institute found interactive formats drive over 50% more engagement. In a world where feeds are saturated and bounce rates are brutal, that extra attention really matters.
And the third shift?
The third shift is behavioral understanding. Brands stopped asking, how do we add a game? And started asking, how do we help customers make better decisions? That's where gamification started working again. Not as a gimmick, but as a tool to reduce friction, confusion, and choice overload.
Can you give an example of what that looks like in practice?
A great example is beauty and skincare. The old approach was spin to win 10 to 20% off. The modern approach is a short, interactive quiz that helps you find the right routine for your skin type, goals, and concerns. Both collect data, but one reduces decision fatigue, builds confidence, and actually helps the shopper move forward.
And that confidence has real business impact too, right?
Absolutely. So brands using guided product quizzes often see 10 to 30% higher average order value and lower return rates because customers feel more certain about what they're buying. Yeah, that's huge for e-commerce owners dealing with margins, logistics, and customer support costs.
What I find interesting is that some of those old mechanics still seem to work in certain cases, even today.
That's the nuance people miss. Some vendors report spin-to-win pop-ups converting around 8 to 9% compared to roughly 3 to 4% for standard email pop-ups. The mechanic itself isn't inherently bad. What matters is how it's framed when it appears and whether it connects to something meaningful in the customer journey.
So it's really about implementation, not the tool itself.
Exactly. That's why we talk about the 3C framework for effective gamification: context, consent, and continuity. Context means triggering the experience at the right moment, like when a shopper is comparing products or hesitating. Consent means the value exchange is obvious and fair. And continuity means the experience leads somewhere useful, not a dead end.
That already feels very different from the old pop-up everywhere approach.
It is. And brands applying these principles are seeing up to twice the engagement of traditional overlays, not because they're louder, but because participation is voluntary and helpful, or the attention is earned, not stolen.
So what would you say to e-commerce owners who are still skeptical because they were burned by early gamification?
I'd say gamification didn't fail. Bad incentive design did. The second wave is about progress, not points. It's about helping customers move from uncertainty to clarity, from browsing to confidence. If an interactive experience helps someone decide faster or feel understood, that's not a gimmick. That's good design.
That's such a helpful reframe.
And here's a simple rule to remember. If it feels like decoration, it's decoration. If it changes decisions, it's behavioral design. Focus on creating value first, and engagement follows naturally.
That really changes how you think about interactive experiences.
And we're still early. With better tools, better data, and a deeper understanding of behavior, brands now have the opportunity to create interactive experiences that are genuinely helpful, not manipulative. This wave of gamification isn't about tricking people. It's about earning attention by delivering real value through interaction.
That's all for today, folks. If you're interested in learning how to build relationships with customers and bolster your brand affinity, head over to PlayAbly.ai and book your demo with John today.